right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp Shapiro. Chris Wynn in on a Monday. And we're going to continue to monitor a very sad story. Former UNLV baseball coach Tim Chambers, who has faced some demons in his life. We'll explain about that a little bit more coming up in hour number 3, tragically losing his life. We'll get to that in a little bit here. Speaking of monsters, I guess you could say, Harvey Weinstein.
And tragic figures.
Yes, and tragic figures. I guess that would be the appropriate term. Would be Harvey Weinstein. So this is a wild story. It came out a few days ago. Harvey Weinstein, he's hanging out at some, I guess you could call it like some sort of comedy club. It was some sort of comedy. It's called Actors Hour event. It's at a Lower East Side bar. I believe it was in New York City. And he's just sitting there at a booth with a few friends, minding his own business. And trust me, folks, I am no defender of Harvey Weinstein. He is a monster. He is a sexual predator. I don't know if he's ever committed rape before. I'm not going to call him a rapist because I don't know if that's true. But what we do know is that he pushed women into having sex or watching him masturbate or whatever the case may be.
The evidence is overwhelming, right, Brian? That this is a case where he's just enjoying his last few months or maybe a year of freedom.
So anyway, he's hanging out at this Actors Hour event. So there's a lot of female actresses there, aspiring actresses, and this woman by the name of let's see, what is her name? I have her name here in this article somewhere. But anyway, Zoe Stuckless is her name. Thank you, Johnny. Zoe Stuckless is her name. She's an aspiring actress. She walks past this booth, and she sees Harvey Weinstein there, and she just goes crazy. Listen to this audio. It's nuts. Keep in mind, she's about 2 feet away from Harvey Weinstein. Here it goes.
No, nobody's going to say anything. Nobody's really going to say anything. I'll get out of here. That's fine. I am happy to leave, but nobody's going to say anything. I'm going to stand 4 feet from a fucking rapist, and nobody's going to say anything. I'll go.
All right, so there you go. That was some pretty interesting audio, to say the least. And again, her name is Zoe Stuckless. She is an actress. All right, here's my opinions on this whole thing. Like I said, I'm not a Harvey Weinstein backer, supporter, defender. He is a scumbag. Harvey Weinstein is a scumbag, and he probably belongs in jail. I don't know if he's ever committed rape before, but the evidence, as you said, Chris, is overwhelming. The inappropriate behavior,
all kinds of sexual misconduct.
Yeah, there's no question. However, I will say this as well, and I want to get this woman on our show. While I understand and I sympathize with women like her, because there are so many, sadly, there are many men in society. If you don't sleep with me, I'm not going to give you this job, or you're not going to get to where you are, and it's horrible, and I hate it. With that being said, what are you accomplishing by screaming at the top of your lungs in a comedy club? He has the right to be there. Okay? He has the right to sit in a comedy club. He hasn't been convicted of anything where he'd be in jail or on parole. What are you doing, and what are you accomplishing by screaming in his face? What, nobody's going to say anything? First of all, she called him a rapist. We don't know whether he's a rapist or not. He's a sexual predator. He's not as far as I know, he's not a rapist. So what are you getting out of doing something like that? That's what I don't understand.
Well, the short answer is this, Brian. She's just making herself. It's an ability of her to feel better, to be able to release that onto him. Okay. Yes. In the end game, from a boil it all down perspective, it's not going to have any type of impact whatsoever. But I will say this, Brian. I will point this out. She went on that rant, and her thoughts, a lot of people agree with, and they are 100% right. Okay, a lot of people are on board with those sentiments, but they just might not, portray it in that way. They might not come out and be that explicit and that, over the top kind of, hysterical, which is what she was obviously, this is not, the type of behavior that would seem normal, but yes, but there's a lot of people, Brian, that are in her corner and that sympathize with her viewpoint when it comes to Harvey Weinstein and other men, by the way. And other people, period, that do these types of actions.
So, by the way, comedian Kelly Bachman, who I've seen her do stand-up before, she's very funny. She took a lot of crap from the crowd, too, because she kind of joked around about the fact that Harvey Weinstein was in the crowd. So Bachman is on stage, and she referred to Harvey Weinstein as the elephant in the room, called him Freddy Krueger. She said, quote, "I didn't know we had to bring our own mace and rape whistles to Actors Hour." And she said that from the stage. She got boos from the crowd. Somebody in the crowd said, "Shut up." Somebody else, and then she said, sorry, that killed at group therapy for rape survivors. So some brutal joking about Harvey Weinstein. And then it went on, and then she said, F you to the crowd members. At one moment during her comedy set, which was about sex, she yelled, consent is important, and stared directly at Weinstein. So there were some very interesting moments at this little comedy club to get together over the weekend. But, I just don't think it is appropriate. And I don't think you're getting anything out of it by screaming and yelling. See, I'll tell you, Chris, what this reminds me of.
I don't know if appropriate is the right word you want to use, Brian. I mean, certain people handle it in their own way.
But I'll tell you what this reminds me of. I can't stand Ted Cruz, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when Ted Cruz and his wife were shouted out of a restaurant.
Bad comparison, though.
Why is it a bad comparison?
Because when we talk about someone like Harvey Weinstein, right, you put them in the same category as a Bill Cosby, right? Or a Jerry Sandusky at Penn State. It'd be the same thing. That's why these scenarios are kind of strange, because you're putting somebody who is going to be going to prison for the rest of their lives, okay, and they have freedom because they have money to be able to get, to bail themselves out, basically, and be free as opposed to being in jail. So you have these scenarios where these people, these despicable human beings, are out and about. And you mentioned, by the way, that he has friends. That is just shocking to me that there's people that are out in public
when you have money,
someone like this.
Sadly, when you
know
have,
what I mean? You
sadly,
understand what I'm saying,
when
though.
you have money, you're going to have enablers.
But
I guess
Brian,
you could say.
get my point, right? I mean, it seems a very strange scenario. So, I mean, comparing him to Ted Cruz, for example, like I think Ted Cruz. We may have political differences with Senator Cruz, and we may not see eye to eye. But that's I don't know if that's necessarily a comparison that you do want to make as far as in public places.
If you are
being displayed,
if you are a woman or a man, and you had something horrible happen to you at some point in your life, maybe something sexual,
right?
I have a lot of sympathy for you, and I'm not saying this woman had that happen to her, but if she did, totally understand why she would lash out, because it's a trigger, and I totally get that, and I understand it, and I feel sorry for her, and I'm very understandable of why she did it. The only point I'm trying to make is, screaming at someone in public or in an event where they're allowed to be there is not. It's just not going to get you anywhere.
Well, that's why I gave you the answer. I said, look, at the end of the day, yes, the only thing that is from her perspective is she's unleashing on him, and so she's making herself feel better. There's no legal consequences. There's no there's no huge revelation that we're going to make regarding Harvey Weinstein on this, and for all intents and purposes, yes, nothing's going to physically happen at that point, but people understand it. People can relate to it, and people, I guarantee you, Brian, people sympathize with her and her outlook on this.
Yeah. Well, listen. I don't feel bad for Harvey Weinstein in any way. I hope he spends the rest of his life behind bars, because he's an absolute scumbag and a sexual predator. And if he's taking a lot of crap for being out in public, going to events, like I said, I don't feel sorry for him at all. So I want to be very clear on that. In no way, shape, or form am I a Harvey Weinstein defender. And like I said, I hope he spends the rest of his life behind bars. But, we always like talking about these stories and expose these racists and these morons in public, and this story is no different. A Texas woman has a new nickname. Her new nickname is Swing Set Susan. There's a reason for that, and a legal charge that could put her behind bars for years. Video went viral. It shows a woman by the name of Samantha Ellie, who is a white woman who is threatening Latino teens at it's called Dream Park in Fort Worth. It's a children's park, and there's a bunch of people of Latino descent, yes, I guess you could say, that are swinging on on the swings and stuff like that. So what does this woman decide to do? She's 38 years old. She drops a bunch of F-bombs. The audio is so crazy, I don't even think we can play it. It's too crazy. And she tells them to get off the swings and get out of the park because it's for children. By the way, these were kids there. She is threatening these kids. So somebody calls the police, and now she's going to be charged. It doesn't start with just this. This woman has been investigated before for Swing Set Susan, we'll call her now, for impersonating a police officer. How sad are you in your life that you have nothing better to do than to be walking around in a park harassing kids because maybe they don't look like you? I am going to say that race is probably a factor here. We hear these types of stories all the time in society, and thank God for cell phones. Let me just say that. Thank God for cell phones so that we can video some of these racist idiots that, quite frankly, make all white people look very bad. And it's not just white people that are being exposed. It's all sorts of different ignorant people. But I'm just saying, in this specific case, this woman is clearly a racist. She's harassing some kids that don't look like her. And now she's actually going to probably go to jail because it's my understanding that she's been on probation. Swing set Susan. So let me tell you something, guys. And I hope we don't have listeners like this, but if we do, if you are the type of person that judges someone based on race, based on gender, whatever the case may be, and you decide to lash out in public, there's a good chance that you're going to be videotaped. And with that being said, there's a good chance that you could lose your job or maybe even go to jail, and we're not going to feel sorry for you one bit. We live in society now where what you do and what you say can be videoed everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. So if you're a closet racist or, you're homophobic, you better keep that stuff to yourself, because when you unleash it in public, people are going to find out about it, and you could end up being like Swing Set Susan.
And like you said, Brian, we've already seen examples of that, right? We've seen grocery stores where people have gone up to people that look like they're from Mexico. They might be, Latin descent, and tell them to go back to their country. We've seen, the racist imbeciles that have called the police on a little black girl who has a lemonade stand because she doesn't have a permit. Get out of here with that stuff, okay? Mind your business. And by the way, on this story, last time I checked, it's a public park, right?
Yes.
So since when do you have any jurisdiction over telling somebody whether or not they belong there or not? It's just so beyond the pale when it comes to this racist activity. And then anybody trying to make excuses for them, you're just out of line.
It's utterly disgusting. We're going to continue to talk about these stories and expose these racist buffoons for what they are. And yes, I do hope she goes to jail for a long time. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about this tragic story of a former UNLV baseball coach who has sadly passed away, and we'll have some audio to play you as well. We'll take a quick break, be back right after this, and give you an update on this story. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.